Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's chapter review of One Piece, Chapter 807, 10 days ago. First off, the cover page was really funny. Last week we saw, or 2 weeks ago, the cover page was Luffy's hometown. Now, this time we get Zoro's hometown. And they are real, his former master is really pissed off, whereas Zoro's former mates are just laughing. The kids, however, are trying to try to close their tape over their one eye, their left eye, to cover it up like Zoro, and are also like Zoro trying to learn the three sword style. So that was pretty funny. As for the Oda, the chapter, Oda, what the fuck? You are dancing around the actual answer as to what happened. We find out that, Kinemon and Kanjiro and the monkey have pretty much stopped for today and are going to wait till tomorrow to try again. Everyone's freaking partying, despite the fact that Sanji, something major's happened to Sanji that we still don't know yet. Brook finally comes in. He's like, "Oh, I'm so glad that you're okay," but again, he's like, "Oh, I'm so sorry what happened to Sanji. I don't think I could face you right now." But that's kind of like, again, hinting that something bad's happened to Sanji. But it's Oda, really. Of course, there's some shady shit with the fact that he says, don't mention that Momo's okay, but he's locked up in his room and refuses to come out. But please don't mention Samurai or Wano Kingdom. You might cause trouble. It might cause trouble. And then, so that's pretty shady there. And then you have these dog-looking minks show up and say, "We found you, corpse." And that's when we realize, oh, so you were talking about Brook. And freaking Wanda's like, "Yeah, we call him that out of affection. It's just that canine minks just adore Bones." And then you see a bunch of dog minks in the background chewing on, piling on Brook and chewing on him. And then we find out that, Law went back to the forest, which was pretty cool. The reunion was pretty nice, given the fact that he wasn't planning on ever seeing them again. Of course, but then, Nami's like, is questioning, telling them, like, what the hell are you talking about? Like, what are you going to do about Sanji? And he's like, relax. He sent a letter, didn't he? He'll work it out somehow. And then Luffy's like, well, it's not like he was captured or anything. So, in this chapter, I just hated how Oda decided not to tell us and is just dancing around the topic of what happened to Sanji. However, we at least eliminated the fact that, yes, he's not dead, and apparently, according to what Luffy said, he wasn't captured. It sounds like he left of his own accord. As for what reason, probably related to his bounty. So, and then, the Straw Hats that were with Sanji are like, "Oh, we're sorry, we couldn't do anything about it." And then the other Straw Hats who got here just like, "Well, we don't understand any of this. Like, come on, tell us, start from the beginning." So we find out that, okay, so we finally decide, this is when we finally go into flashback to find out how things went down. We have the next, so then we see how they escaped. First, we start with how they escaped Big Mom's ship, which apparently Capone was with Big Mom on the ship. And so basically what they do is they can't get away with Kuda Burst because they don't know how to use it. Because it's usually Frankie or Brooks and Frankie and it's Frankie and Usopp's job. So we have so the Big Mom ship fires cannonballs. Brook freezes them with his soul solid. Then Monster Chopper grabs Caesar and uses him like a blanket to capture all the frozen cannonballs and then throws the Caesar with all the cannonballs up to Sanji, who then uses his Diablo Jambol or Pole Free Spectre technique to instantly turn them into fire cannonballs and send them back at Big Mom's ship. And then Nami uses her weather egg to create mist and for them to escape him. They all praise them for doing a good job of getting away, and they're like, that's nothing. And then apparently at the time, 11 days ago, when they were left Dressrosa, Zoe was apparently close enough to Dressrosa at the time to only take a day to get there. So Zoe moves pretty quickly for an elephant of that size. So now, before we even have a chance to get to what happened 10 days ago, what happened? They mention how, okay, the damage from Jack must have been at least 2 weeks ago. And she's like, yeah, well, it was about 17 days ago to be exact. And basically, the Straw Hats showing up helped prevent people from dying because they were had something to do with Nami's courage and Chopper's medicine and training helped save lives, apparently. And then this friggin' other mink shows up saying, oh, the prince is awakened. Or the duke, or whatever translation, these freaking translation differences, or whatever. So apparently this duke, whatever's risen, and Chopper runs off with a goat-looking mink and a squirrel-looking mink to go take care of him, I guess. And this person's name is Inuyasha. Sends words that he wants to meet the saviors. And Inuyasha is like a dog, so there's a dog, and then there's also seems to be some sort of cat leader, which we find out that this pretty much has there's two kings. There's the king of the day, Duke Inuyasha, and king of the night, Master Nico Mamushi. So, which kind of, as they're walking towards to meet this Duke Inuyasha, Wanda talks about it. Says it was about the event, about how they have this visitor bell that they ring whenever, to welcome whenever somebody visits. However, when there was welcome bells ringing, it wasn't welcome bells ringing, it was raid bell, and that these people tore through the forest and just destroyed their peaceful city. And thanks to this unusually heavy rumbling through the ground, aka Zunisha was roaring out. And they're basically like, so they're like, well, we can't give this enemy that's destroying our place is asking for something we don't have. So how are we supposed to give it to them? And then we see this giant ass mammoth, which is obviously elephant. This like mammoth, which is obviously Jack, and he's basically and in his transformed form saying, "Now then, bring him forward. We know he's the warrior of Wano Kingdom, Raizo." Trampling, and then so it seems like Oda, of course, dances around, skips over what Nami says, and now we're gonna get through flashback. We're gonna find out exactly what happened while Jack was here. and then we're gonna finally get back to how that. Okay, now that we know what happened, now we know how important it is, how good it is that Nami and Sanji and them showed up. So now we're gonna see them. So this flashback of finding out what exactly Jack did while he was here is going to lead into Nami and Sanji's group showing up, and then we're probably eventually through flashbacks find out what happened to Sanji. So given that, I'm disappointed that again Oda chose not to tell us outright, but this can lead to some more issues, such as a possibility of I mean, it's good and bad, because eventually, yes, basically we know the end result of the stuff, but sort of know the end result of this situation. But now Oda's going into a flashback to show you everything that happened, so that way eventually we'll get back to the present as to what actually happened, and then we'll have learned everything that's happened. How many chapters that'll take, I don't know. This is the first chapter sent back from his hiatus, or his 1 week break, I should say. And so we got maybe another 2 or 3 chapters before he goes on to his next break. So hopefully he gets through this flashback, and before he goes on to his next break, we find out what happened to Sanji. I don't want to have him like, okay, let's go through flashback. The next 2 or 3 chapters we're dealing with this flashback, and then at the end of a chapter was like, okay, we're about to find out what happened to Sanji again, and then he goes on break again. So then, which would be really piss off the fandom, because for the second time in a row he's about to tell us what happened to Sanji, and he's going to go on break. That's kind of stupid. Really, really stupid. Now, as for the implications of this, we do know the positives about this chapter was good. It gave us some important information about as to what happened, filled us in on certain details. Obviously not about what happened to Sanji, but so that in that respect, this chapter I would say is a good. However, it's also, I would say, maybe a good minus. Usually, because again, we didn't get Sanji, but however, we do know it didn't happen to him. He wasn't captured, and he's not dead. And as far as we know, he's not seriously injured, so that's good. Now, the positive thing about this is all this mystique about what happened to Sanji, and his bounty poster about him only winning alive means that there's a very high chance that in the next arc we are going to have is going to be like a Sanji focused arc, similar to that of like maybe Enies Lobby, sort of, depending on what actually happened to him. Now, the bad part of that is that means until the Zou arc is over, we're not going to see Sanji. We may see Oda might, after we learn what happened to Sanji, he may for a chapter say, oh, I'll show you a quick scene of what Sanji's up to. Or they'll mention Sanji and you'll see Sanji off doing something that you don't know exactly what it is, because even, we will eventually learn what Nami and them know about what happened to Sanji, but obviously they aren't going to know everything about what Sanji's up to. So there's going to be, it just really disappoints me that after all that time we spent without Sanji during the Dressrosa arc, now we're going to go through Zou arc without Sanji. It's pretty much guaranteed at this point we're not going to get Sanji in this arc. Whatever that happens in this arc and whatever happened to Sanji is going to lead into the next arc. And also, based on the fact at the end when we see how Raizo came in looking for a Wano Kune person, is probably why they don't like samurais and Wano Kune people, because of what happened. Now, as for what all this means, the fact that Raizo's supposedly here somewhere, there's this hatred, like this is very hinting even further that after this arc we're going to Wano Kune. Now, what could them going to Wano, now based on the fact that it seems like, alright, there's Wano Kune with, we've been picking up these people from Wano Kune, and eventually we have to get them back to Wano Kune. there's this even all this stuff with Jax hitting further that we're going to Wano Kuni next because now he was searching for him, and then there's that whole thing that supposedly there's this big connection between Wano Kuni and Kaido. Possibly Kaido lives there, or that's one of his favorite islands, and that he's gonna be there. And so it's like, okay, the next arc seemingly is going to be heavily involving Wano Kuni, possibly most likely being actually Wano Kuni itself, which suppose we are currently led to believe has a lot of connection to Kaido, possibly being Kaido's place of business, maybe even his home village or whatever. Who knows? Who the fuck knows? But there's also that third thing about the next arc possibly being a Sanji focused arc. So when you think of similar to that of Enies Lobby, so when you take all these pieces together, it doesn't fit because it's like, okay, Wano Kuni and Kaido fit, but how would a Sanji focused arc, and what happened to Sanji, and what is this whole secret? How is that all relate? How does that relate to Kaido and friggin' Wano Kuni? Now, what we do know of Sanji is that he was born and was originally from the North Blue. So, what about him is so important that he's only wanted alive? That's something we really need to know, because as we've learned from the past, nobody, no matter who the connections are, even friggin' Doflamingo, who was a former Tenryubito, was not immune to getting a bounty and being requested to be captured dead or alive. So even if Sanji was the prince of some kingdom, it would have to be something even bigger than that I see has to be the case for him to be only wanted alive. Now, some people are saying it's related to something he did with Big Mom, but I highly doubt it. Now, granted, since, again, we don't know what his life was like back then in the North Blue, and we don't know exactly where some of these famous pirates, because most likely it's probably maybe he's related to a famous pirate, who knows exactly who he's related to, because it has to be either something he did, or something he knows, or something that someone he's related to. So, this just brings up so many questions that are just so hard to answer, and it's going to be interesting to find out exactly how this happened, what happened. But Oda has to actually give it to us. So I hope you all enjoyed this review, and hope to see you all next week.